Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, today with another team-up deck, this time focused on Nidoqueen, a very powerful non-GX that we're actually getting in the pre-release kits, so it's a good deck to get off the list early. The basic concept of this build is going to be the fact that we've seen Meganium and Swampert be successful to moderate placements here and there with a handful of different decks, proves to me that the engine is going to be potent. We've seen it be paired alongside Rhyperior for mill, Decidueye for sort of spread, and then using a Porygon Z to devolve things. And also, of course, the Japanese sort of counter deck that was using the Greninja GX to try and beat up on Zapdos players. So we know for a fact that this Meganium Swampert deck can sort of build up some stage 2s and can be supported by quite a few things. And I think Nidoqueen's a great addition to this because obviously its attack is based on the amount of evolutions on your board, and that ability is going to help the deck even more because it can add some extra search every turn. So the more Nidoqueens in play, the more this deck is going to be safe and secure and going to be able to recover whenever certain pieces are knocked off your board, like Meganium or Swampert that gets targeted. We can use the Nidoqueen to try and recover those Pokemon straight away and rebuild our board. That's the idea behind this list. So we play a huge amount of Pokemon. As you can see, Nidoqueen is our main attacker, and we're going to play a 3-3 count of her. Quick note on the Nidoran female, it has a colorless attack cost for just 1, and it allows us to put a basic Pokemon from our deck straight onto our board. This can actually be really big if we've missed Chikorita turn 1, so if we have the option to attack with Nidoran, that's actually going to be pretty important for us in all honesty. Then we have the Nidoqueen. 160 hit points is pretty chunky on a stage 2 Pokemon, non-GX, and it has that great ability, Mother Call. You're allowed to, once a turn, look through your deck for any Pokemon that's not an EX or GX and put it straight into your hand. So the synergy is just there, it's very obvious. Meganium gets our first Nidoqueen, then Nidoqueen helps us get either our second Meganium or the Swampert or the other pieces that we need along the way, which is really cool. The fact that we can't get EXs and GXs is a little annoying because we have Alolan Ninetales, which also helps us get set up really well. But we also play Pokemon Communication in the list, so just having Pokemon in general into your hand just makes your Pokecoms pretty much always live. So that's really good to know. Then we have this attack. For 3 colorless, we do 10 base and 50 more for each of your evolved Pokemon on your bench. So really, we're looking to have 4 or 5 evolutions on the board to be doing big one-hit knockouts, and that's really going to be what we're trying to do with this Nidoqueen deck. From there, we're going to have a 2-0-2 line of the Meganium with that quick ripening herb ability, basically just allowing you to do a rare candy every turn. We're going to try and get both of these into play, and it even allows us to evolve them when they've only just come into play, so that's going to be really awesome, especially when Nidoqueen can help search out Pokemon. We can literally use 2 Nidoqueen abilities to get ourselves Mudkip, Swampert, and then Meganium can put it instantly into play, and we can start using Power Draw, which is insane. Quick note on the basic, we're obviously playing the 60 hit point ones because we are going to be playing Elm in this list. From there, the Mudkip, also 60 hit points, and the Swampert. We've seen this combination of Meganium and Swampert before. Power Draw is going to help us cycle more towards some key pieces in our deck. Most notably things like Super Boost Energy, Counter Gain, a few key supporters like Gladion as well, or Guzmas. These are all the things we're kind of looking for, as well as DCEs on most turns, which is pretty big. All 3 of these Stage 2 Pokemon can attack, obviously Nidoqueen being the main one, but Meganium has good Grass-type coverage and can knock out the likes of Lycanroc GX and a handful of other things. And the Swampert is a water type that can knock out things like Blacephalon, so do bear that in mind. We do play 1 Choice Band in the deck, so a Hydro Pump with just a DCE and 1 Psychic Recharge could get a knockout on a Blacephalon, and of course Super Boosting makes his Hydro Pump do 160. Again, Choice Band 190 is a good option to keep in mind. We're going to play a 2-2-1 line of Alolan Ninetales GX. Quickly going over the water one, we need a Pokemon in this deck that doesn't have an ability so that we can still beat Chimecho Lock. So we're just going to play 1 Water Tails. It also provides a GX attack that we actually don't have an option for outside of Tapu Cure, so bear that in mind. An Ice Blade is actually reasonable if our Nidoqueen is just not doing much and we've already used Beacon on turn 1 and our Vulpix wasn't knocked out. We can start firing off Ice Blades and set things up for our Nidoqueen as well, so it's not a bad one-off to have in the list, especially because we need something that doesn't have an ability in here. And then we're going to have 2 of the Fairy Alolan Ninetales. The thing that will be mainly evolving into from our Alolan Vulpix, because we're going to be helping dig out things like rare candies and ball search cards to get our guys into play. And also it means that we can grab those key one-of tools that we're playing, counter gain and choice bands. So really, really nice GX to have in the deck. Beacon, of course, in its own right is a very helpful attack for those early game turns. We can retreat straight into our Vulpix if we need to get some more stuff for the next turn. We're going to play a 1/1 line of Malamar. For that Psychic Recharge, obviously the Nidoqueen has the annoying 3 energy commitment, so we're going to need the likes of DCE plus Recharge, or we're going to need Counter Gain, or we're going to need Super Boost. So we have many options to try and get the Nidoqueen attacking, but the Malamar is just definitely going to help us in matchups where we need to try and chain multiple Nidoqueens against like non-GX builds and stuff like that. Following on, we're going to play 1 Ditto Prism Star. This acts as like the 3rd Vulpix / the 2nd Inkay, so it helps us a little bit against prizing those pieces, and it also means we have more options to evolve into Ninetales early, which just makes sense to me. And 1 copy of Tapu Lele GX. You don't really ever want to have more in your deck because you physically don't want more than 1 non-evolving Pokemon on your board because it will ruin your Nidoqueen's damage output, but the option to get that Elm turn 1 is just so safe and secure that I can't say no to it really. Onto the item cards, pretty much because the Pokemon takes up so much room, we need to really try and skimp out on these. So nothing in here that we can't afford to be playing. 1 copy of Switch, obviously it combines really nicely with Psychic Recharge so that we can get a Nidoqueen out of nowhere. For example, if we don't have a backup Nidoqueen on our board already, and one gets knocked out, we could simply go Nidoran into Nidoqueen via a Meganium, Psychic Recharge, DCE, and play a Switch, and we're back in there. It sounds like a lot of combo pieces, but when the Nidoqueen can search out Pokemon freely every turn, when we already have Power Draw, when we have Stretchers and stuff like that, it's actually not too much to ask for, I wouldn't think. That being said, 2 copies of Stretcher to try and recycle some key pieces. Obviously the Chikoritas in the early turns, if they've not been able to evolve up, or even if people are trying to pick off the Meganiums, that's going to be important to recycle, as well as our main attacker in the Nidoqueen, and also the Malamar as well at times. 2 copies of Treasure can search out Lele, which is big for the early turn odds, as well as the Nidoqueen pieces and the Mali pieces. 2 copies of Ultra Ball to find the rest of our stuff. 4 Pokemon Communication is a huge card for this deck. We're playing, you know, a lot of Pokemon, so we have great odds for this Pokecom to always be live, and obviously it means that the Nidoqueen's ability gets even more versatile because it can then use alongside Pokecom to get out things like the Alolan Ninetales GX, so that's really awesome. 4 copies of Rare Candy, so we're not super reliant on Meganium, and of course we need to get them into play in the first place. And then we have 1 copy of Counter Gain. We're a Stage 2 deck that relies on having a really big board, so I imagine we're losing prizes before we're taking them, and this means that the Nidoqueen can attack for just a DCE, which is huge. And 1 copy of Choice Band, although we can do something like 210 quite frequently. Zoroark players have resistance on us, which is really worth noting, so trying to push that damage is going to be huge. And of course, when we're up against some Stage 2 GX Pokemon, we can even one-shot them, which would be pretty incredible. The Choice Band also synergizes with the likes of Swampert against Blacephalon, so I feel like it's really worth playing in the deck. I wish I could have space for more, but honestly, the deck has to be so tight because of the amount of Pokemon we need to play. For supporters, 1 copy of Gladion. There are some really key one-of cards like the Malamar, the Ditto, the pieces of Meganium, the Super Boost, the Counter Gain. Lots of one-ofs that we don't want to prize, so Gladion can help us access those. 2 copies of Guzma. We don't have much discard in the deck now that we just played 2 Ultra Ball and 2 Treasure, so there shouldn't be any means of getting rid of these Guzmas unless we get really unfortunate hands. So we'll always be able to play 2 unless there's some awkward prizing going on. I really wish, again, we could play more, but I think there's only space for a couple. And hopefully we're doing enough damage that we're just knocking anything in front of us out. 4 copies of Cynthia and 4 copies of Elm round out the deck. I think Cynthia is good, especially on like turn 2 after you've done that Elm to help you get into some Stage 2 pieces. And then once we start seeing those come to fruition, we'll be getting really big hand sizes anyway via Swampert, which is big. And the Elm is, of course, just natural. We need to try and get some Chikoritas down, some Nidoran down if possible, maybe Alolan Vulpix as well to give us a really good chance of getting turn 2 to be popping off with all these Stage 2s. And on to the stadiums, 2 copies of Brooklet Hill. This again can help get things like Mudkips and Alolan Vulpix, as well as being a nice counter stadium to some annoying things, especially Prism Star Stadium cards, like the Wonder Labyrinth that we don't want to have to deal with. So getting rid of that is going to be nice. And then we're playing just 7 energy, very much on the cheeky side. 1 super boost, 4 DCE, and just the 2 psychic that we're going to try and recharge with the Malamar. So it really is on the low side. We're trying only ever to get that 1 Mally out anyway, so we're just trying to use it for that supplementary 1 energy attachment here and there. But I think it's definitely worth playing so that we can try and chain these Nidoqueen attacks. And that's the full list, if you want to pause it now. Yeah, this has taken a lot of thought to try and get a good 60 to work, because Nidoqueen is so powerful, but also so awkward, and I wish I had space for like another choice band, another counter gain, another energy at least, another ball search card. Like, I want so much more in this deck, but getting it into 60 cards has been an absolute challenge, so I'll allow anyone to have their thoughts and try and squeeze anything else into the deck, but I think this is as tight as it gets, really. Onto tech options, if you do find somehow some room, Mallow can be really nice in combination with your Swampert, of course. The Cynthias, as good as they are on turn 2, they're pretty dead once you've actually got Swampert rolling, especially because the Nidoqueens also help you stack up a bigger hand size with your Mother Calls. So the Mallow could be nice for picking out some key one-offs. I can definitely see weaving in 1 Mallow. Also, an Acerola would be pretty cool. If you play Shrine of Punishment in your list to try and improve stuff like the Zoroark matchup, you can then Acerola up your own Tapu Lele and free up a bench space for you to ripen into a new Stage 2 Pokemon, which would be epic. Also, for math fixing, you could try and think of a Decidueye GX. That Feather Arrow could, again, do some numbers to knock out a Zoroark every turn, which would be pretty nutty. So if you have space for a 101 Decidueye, that could be a really good way to improve Zoroark, which for now I feel like could be potentially awkward. At the same time, though, similar to like Gramble, we have 160 hit points. It's not very easy for Zoroark decks to one-shot us unless they're using a heavy Weavile line, in which case we've got a pretty bad matchup. But the Decidueye can help ping down these Zoros and one-shot them. The only other thing I could consider, maybe something like a Marshtomp or a Nidorina in the deck, seeing as though we're already playing Ditto, we just increase the value of that card by adding in some evolving Stage 1s to the deck. We so far have the option for Mally and the Alolan Ninetales, but we could add in maybe just 1 Nidorina as well, especially if we've used our quick ripening herbs, or if we've prized 1. The deck can whiff some big attacks if it doesn't have enough Stage 1s in the list, so I could definitely see those being incorporated. Again, space is the big issue, but they could be really nice options. The Nidorina actually lets you recover, I think, 5 Pokemon as well for you. I think it might be Psychic Pokemon in any combination, or it might be Pokemon and Psychic Energy cards. I can't remember. Might have to look that up, but it definitely recovers some key pieces for just 1 energy, and that could help out. Seeing as though we're just reliant on 2 stretches at the moment, this could be an extra little help if you really need it. Onto the matchup overview, I think Zoro Decitails is probably the hardest one. They can use their Decidueyes to put you into range all the time, and they also have the way to do like Ninetales sniping in the early turns to knock out multiple bench basics, which is really awkward. Zoro Rock Stage 1s, I've said, is pretty bad, because I'm imagining Zoro decks are playing more Weaviles right now because of all the new cool toys that the Dark decks get. The Black Market and the Dangerous Drill and the Nanu, those sorts of pieces, are going to get weaved into Rock, so I can imagine those are going to be bad matchups. Gramble as well, I think, is going to be awkward. They can hit that magic 160 so easily, and they'll just chain their attacks on you quite often. Lost March as well can hit that magic number early, as well as giving you big let looses in the opening turns, which will definitely give you headaches. Persimmon Coco, we are so reliant on filling our board, we can't play around the Persimmon and the Coco very well, and that's going to be just bad news for us. White Kyurem again hits that magic 160, is a basic, so it's probably going to be faster than us. And Tool Drop as well reaches big numbers faster than us a lot of the time. So I think dodging the non-GX decks is definitely the path for victory for Nidoqueen. I think notably your Zapdos Jirachi is not a non-GX deck that you're particularly afraid of, because you have so many hit points on all of your guys. It's not like they can take easy Zapdos knockouts on anything, and after turn 2 we won't be having those little 60 hit point basics lying around, because we'll have Ripening Herb to get them straight into big boys, and that can really be awkward for resources for Zapdos decks. For the closing thoughts, I think, seeing as though the engine's already proven, I have high hopes for Nidoqueen. I think the addition is great. It just makes you less clunky, as well as having a nice attacking option throughout the game. My main concern is just how often you can attack. Only 1 Super Boost, only 1 Counter Gain, and that 1 Malamar is trying to make you go through the game. And I think, especially against the non-GX decks, those cracks will definitely be showing. I think, you know, we could be seeing a different build of Nidoqueen that plays more Malamars, more Energies, and Pidgeotto instead of the Meganium Swampert deck. But I think this is much more of a like potent and powerful build if it gets rolling, but it is kind of fragile. If you want to go down the Pidgeotto route, I imagine you'll be playing a thicker line of Nidorina. You'll play like a 4, like 2 or 3 Nidorina and 4 Nidoqueen, and then like a 2-2 Pidgeotto, and then like at least a 2-2 Malamar. You'll just be drawing a lot less cards, so it makes it harder for you to dig into DCEs and stuff like that, which is kind of like the downside of that build. But it's a little bit safer, and that might be one worth profiling as well later down the line. I think I'll save that for when we actually get the cards on PCGO, and I'll do gameplay of that one, because there's still so many decks that I need to cover for this new set, because there's so much ground and so many new cards coming out that I need to discuss all sorts. But yeah, that's just one of the Nidoqueen builds that I've had in mind. Definitely fun to try and fit this into 60 cards, because I've wanted about 85. But yeah, that's all I've got for you today for Nidoqueen. Let me know what you think about this deck. Let me know what you think about Nidoqueen in general. And yeah, I can't wait to be at pre-releases trying to pull not this one, trying to get all the others. But I'll inevitably end up with this guy and try and build this deck instead. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you tomorrow for another new deck. Cheers.